Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Coaching and Consulting Insight Series on the Success Insight Podcast. The Coaching and Consulting Insight Series introduces you to coaches and consultants who work with leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals to create their best lives and achieve and perform at their full potential. Trainer and executive coach Tim Hast is our guest on the podcast today. Tim, together with his wife Ruthie, founded Encore Life Skills. He and his team provide organizational training, development, and coaching services focusing on leadership, listening, communication, conflict management, meditation, and team building. He specializes in facilitating trust-based relationships through group and individual training. Tim, it's a pleasure to have you back on the Coaching and Consulting Insight Series. Welcome.
Well, thanks, Howard. Good to be back. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Howard.
I know, and if it's not about business, it's usually about coffee and
Coffee.
very much coffee. And for our listeners, if you haven't figured it out already, Tim and I know each other. He's a very good friend. And when I made a move from the Midwest to Las Vegas, I passed through Tim's hometown, and he and his wife were gracious to have me stay with them. And I did a bad thing. I introduced him to the love of roasting his own coffee. So it's a wonderful thing. And I will
Yes, it is.
toast my glass to you right now. Assuming this video is in good quality, we'll post it. So, Tim, we're entering the fall season here in Oklahoma, in Las Vegas. And how are you doing?
I am doing good. I am looking forward to that first cool front that comes through and puts a chill on things, and that longing for fall. The trees and the grass and we're all longing for fall, and I'm right there with them. So summer's kind of holding on a little bit longer, which is not uncommon for Oklahoma, but fall will be here sooner or later. As they say in Game of Thrones, winter is coming.
Winter is definitely coming.
Winter is coming.
And here in Las Vegas, when winter comes, people like, oh my God, we can finally get out again and into the hiking out in the desert. And well, that's really fun because here our probably very much the same, maybe different environment, but
Well,
very
you
hot.
guys have kind of summer, really summer, summer is hell, less summer, and winter for 30 minutes, and then back to summer again.
Yeah, we don't stray too far from that little that continuum, and it's like in the
S
middle of August, it's like just put your what's it like, Howard? Well, throw your oven up to 500, okay? Then open the door. That's it. That's what Las Vegas is like.
That's very visual.
So what has been, you and I mean, we've been chatting either over the phone virtually, but the last time you and I saw each other is almost the onset of COVID as I was passing through Oklahoma City.
Mhm. Mhm.
But we haven't really kind of talked about how business has been for you and the work that you're doing in the training and executive coaching front. How have you, as a coach, you and Ruthie in the business uh, with Encore Life Skills, how have you all this thing that was happening to us
Yeah.
and to where you are now?
Well, up until about 2020, I was a live in-person executive coach and trainer. I had a Zoom account. I've had a Zoom account for probably 6 or 7 years. When Zoom first came out, I thought, "I'll use that someday," but it just sat there, and I was thinking about doing away with it, and then COVID hit, and I remember whatever the Friday in March was, the 13th, the 15th of March of 2020, I was training for a large organization, and when I got home that afternoon, I had emails and messages saying, "Hey, we're canceling the upcoming training," and it was during the lockdown, and I thought, "What in the world am I gonna do?" Well, I had Zoom, and I sat on my sofa for about a month and tried to write a book on boundaries and etiquette in the workplace, and got pretty far along, but I thought, "I've gotta do something," so I bought a microphone, and Bob Pike Training Organization had a program called, Virtual Training and How to Do It, and I scraped together the 3-day online course at 3 mornings. Of course, we're all in lockdown, so there was nothing else to do. And, I increased my bandwidth, and I started learning how to do, I'd never done webinars. It scared me to death. The thought of having thousands of people, of course, I never had thousands of people, but having people listening to me and not being able to control putting them in a breakout room and thinking, "What if I lose them? What if our connection gets severed?" But I got over those fears, and I began to do that and really begin to, and I'm an extrovert. I love to be with people face to face, but I began to realize that I could do this Zoom thing, and so I began to do webinars. So when we came back to live in-person, training and coaching, I continued. About half of my coaching clients come to my office, about half of them I see on Zoom, and then, I'm back to pretty much live, training, although I did a book on listening, and a company in Birmingham is doing their conference in, like, November, and they want me to beam in for about an hour and a half and speak to them, and so from time to time, I still do, uh, uh, keynotes or talks on listening, so that's kind of the state of things with me right now, Howard.
Well, I love that. And for our listeners, when you'll see this in the video, but if you were actually to him in person, this man he's all energy and just bring, and really, which is, I'm impressed, because I have to force myself to be energetic. And I've got a lot. I am a little bit animated. And I'm moving my hands right now, but I don't have that same kind of energy. And I remember, and it's funny because being online has always been good for me. Very comfortable with it, especially with Zoom. I mean, we kicked off our first podcast back in 2019. It was like February, and I was very happy with it. And I was always scared to be up on the stage. Uh, and I think I'm getting better at it. I still get the jitters, and then but once it starts, you're on. But is being on live, perhaps on stage, doing a keynote, is that for you? Just curious.
I just my father was a preacher, and
There you
so
go.
getting up in front of people is like, why would you not this? It's like you go to work and you get in front of people. And so it's always been, exhilarating to me. It's There's a certain point of nervousness, like, when I get to the microphone and begin to interact with people, there's something about it that is just about as good as it gets.
I love it. I love it. So your trajectory with COVID and mine very much the same. I mean, I came out
Mm,
to Las Vegas to coach inside of a call center for a company and do career development coaching. And I remember coming out to Las Vegas in March 1st,
mhm.
and I was told after that week, "Oh, you can't come back now." And I remember my team leader literally called me and said, "Howard, you got to come back to the office because we're not allowed back in after next week." And
Oh, man.
she literally handed me my computer and my power cord
Mm,
that the company had given us because that we needed to use their equipment. And the cab driver "Why do you wanna go back there?" "Oh, yeah, I gotta go pick up a PC." And she
mhm.
literally handed it to me, and then, the rest was history, and we're just trying
Wow.
to, traverse this healthcare, pandemic. I'm curious, what's changed for you or, say, your clients when it comes to developing them, coaching, and for them for whether it's team building, whether it's, uh, learning to become better communicators, working together. Is there not in the style of coaching, but more the outcomes or the benefits? Why are they looking for
Mm.
coaching today versus how they were looking for it, 3 years ago, say pre-COVID?
So this is the psychologist in me speaking here. When we went through COVID, we all thought we were gonna die,
Mm,
and it put the whole world in fight or flight. And I think there's not a person that has not been on social media who can't say civility has gone down the drain. There is a lack of civility and an edginess. You know, people get on airplanes and they and you constantly see TikTok or videos of people getting in a fight on an airplane, and it's like something about COVID raised our fight or flight level, and so I think people are really more aware of the need for civility, the need for emotional intelligence, the need for that awareness that how I say something makes all the difference in the outcome. And, you know, I can go I can go into a conversation and be aware of my tone, my voice, what I'm saying, and how it affects the other person, and I can read that person's body language and see where this conversation is going. And there are things that I can do in the way I communicate that influences the outcome of the conversation. It can be either a really good conversation or it can really go downhill. And I think there's more of an awareness, whether people are aware of, "I need to be more emotionally intelligent." I think there's an awareness of how incivil conversation is that a good word? Incivil? Uncivil?
Uncivil.
Uncivil conversations can be if people are not careful about choosing their words.
Right. Yeah, I think we have to be more intentional today. And I do have a fear that we're kind of reverting back to the way we used to be. We just, we just say things because I want to say it. It's
Mhm,
very individual. It's what's right for me, not which is what's right for everybody else. And
mhm.
I and I think if with what COVID did teach us is that we have to other.
Yeah,
And and as you just said, be careful, be intentional, know how we're coming across, how we're affecting others through the ways we choose to interact. And again, I hope, I don't want another pandemic, but I certainly want us to back to where we were, where we cared about each
yeah.
other.
Mhm.
With your clients today, you're going back into the office. What are some of the new ways your business is evolving and how you communicate and help your client, provide a service or resource, take, develop their professional staff? What are some of
Mm.
the new ways that you're working on?
So with the great resignation
Okay.
and quiet quitting, it's it's harder for employers to keep employees. People during COVID realized, "I don't have to work." You know, I can scrimp and get by on less, stay at home. And so so that it's a market where the employee is really, and hard to keep people. So in the last year, we've done a lot of studying on the psychology of engagement. What makes people want to get up and go, "Man, I love my job. I love going to work." And so a lot of the conversations that we've been having in our training, whether it's directly that topic or some related topic, when we're teaching on conflict resolution or on communication or on personality styles, we are we are looking at that through the lens of if you do this, it will either make your workforce more engaged, which keeps them there longer and lowers turnover, or you will be sending them away, making them think about applying for a job elsewhere. And so a lot of our coaching and a lot of our training has this underlying theme of do this not because it's the right thing, just because it's the right thing to do, but it's the right thing to do and it makes your employees happy. And if they're happy, the chance of them staying there longer and if they get an offer from someplace else, it'll chance of them jumping ship and going over someplace else. And people will work for less money at a place where they're more ooh, I need a t-shirt, but more happy. Is that my
uh,
English today is
I,
not very good.
you and I haven't had enough good coffee. This is for our listeners.
Uh,
It's early for both of
happier,
us.
happier.
Yeah. So I'm curious with means. our time. So 1 day, 2 day, 3 day.
Mm,
If you're going to facilitate a program like Patrick Lencioni is in the Wiley's Five Dysfunctions of a Team or the Everything Disc products, which you and I both use in our work, those are
mhm,
very discrete pieces of training.
mhm.
And and unless we plan it, the training happens, it gets executed, and then the professionals go off and continue with whatever they were doing,
Mhm.
hopefully retaining what they learned, maybe having their reports as a reference, and perhaps there's some exercises to keep. What's your sense of keeping learning and development alive within an organization? I mean, what's going on there?
Well, we look for champions.
Yeah.
We look for people when I train, I don't wanna just go into an organization and do a dog and pony show and then be gone, because the last thing I want is to do a training and have people come to work the next day and say, "You know, what he said was nice, but I can't remember a thing he said.
Mm,
It was nice, he was nice, he's energetic, and he made us laugh, but I for the life of me, I can't remember what." That is a fate worse than death for me.
mhm.
So we 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 talk to managers. Thing that you can do the day after training is ask the person, one of your direct reports who attended that training, "What did you learn? Tell me how you're applying that." And so we try to send assignments or emails afterwards. We try to do if we can have posters put up in the warehouse where the people see the poster, the reminder of what they learned that week. If we anything that we can do that will cause their brain to fire those neurons one more time is just that little bit more assurance that what they learned today, they will use tomorrow.
Okay. Are there any examples you can share, again, with confidentiality in place, that examples of how you are helping organizations say develop their emotional intelligence skills or communication skills and kind of I think of this as kind of like an IV bag in a hospital. There's just
Mhm,
this
mhm,
constant drip of
mhm,
information and
mhm.
dialogue, communication. Are there any examples that you can share of some of the work you're doing?
Sure. Well, let me be generic first, then I'll focus in on a case study. We are disc providers. We're with Wiley's Everything Disc.
Mhm.
And during the pandemic, they came out with a platform called Catalyst. So you take your disc profile online, and then it becomes part of like a folder with your organization. So if you work for ABC organization, everyone at ABC organization that has taken the disc is in that folder. And you have an app that you can access on your laptop or on your phone where you can go on and see your profile. And the really good part of it is you can look up. So if Howard and Tim Hast worked at ABC company, and Tim was gonna have a card, he can look Howard up, and he can see what motivates Howard, and he can see what stresses Howard. Because Tim Hast is an extrovert, and Howard is an introvert. Tim Hast loves to get up in front of people, and Howard would rather do webinars, and that's the way that's our DNA, that's how we work, and if I understand that about Howard before I go and have a meeting with him, I'm a lot more successful. So one of the ways we keep this going is our bottom line is we begin training with, "Let's get on the same page. Let's speak the same language." So we train people on disc, and then we show them in the workshop, we show them how to access each other's profiles, and we tell them every time you pick up the phone, every time you get ready to email this person, every time you meet with this person in person, before you do that, take 30 seconds, look them up, and remind yourself of their style and the way they want to be appreciated, the way they want to communicate, what stresses them, what motivates them. Go armed with all that in your mind before you have that conversation with them, and that keeps them coming back to it. That keeps them thinking about, emotional intelligence. That keeps them really kinda, "Ooh, I've got to structure my words in a way that makes sense to Howard, or I will not be successful."
Okay. How are you using some of the new mediums out there? Like, for example, podcast. I mean, you and I are on a podcast right now. I've been producing this podcast, Success Insights, since 2019. I know podcasts predate that date. Uh, are you or any of your clients using modalities to continue to have have conversations, bring people?
Yes. So, Howard, I train for a behavioral health center, and they have people that are potential leaders, and they practice developing leaders from inside. And they came to us and they said, we would like to do a podcast every other week on Fridays at 11 o'clock, and we're going to call it e-coaching. And we want to invite some potential leaders to attend. And we want you just to talk about things that have to do with leadership, have to do with emotional intelligence, have to do with communication. And they said, we'll record it, but we'll also have a live audience. And since they're the people within the organization, and since they're spread out over 9 satellite locations, it was just the perfect opportunity to blend webinars with podcasts. So it's kind of a hybrid podcast webinar. And so we'll pick one topic. For instance, last week was coaching, and it's an hour long, and we don't try to give everything. We try to take one little aspect of coaching or one little aspect of communication, and we try to have 3 or 4 points, and we try to leave time for discussion. We want to draw them in. So sometimes when we are doing this, we'll have a blank screen, we'll have them annotate, or we'll have a poll, we'll have them log in, or we'll just have them unmute their microphone. So our goal is every 5 or 6 minutes, we want to draw them in. We want to make sure that we're not doing all the talking. So we give them permission to unmute their microphone. Now, if this were just open to the public, I would not do this because
Mhm.
never know what someone's going to say. But all these people are identified when their picture shows up and their name. And so we've not had a problem with someone saying something inappropriate. And it is really a lot of fun because you get the joy of podcasting, but you also get that interaction with people. And they'll ask questions or they'll share something that they've encountered along the way that's related to the topic. Um, and I'm just really, really, really this this every other Friday meeting with people.
I love it. Now, how long have you been uh, engaged in this particular this project, this exercise with this organization?
We started this back in April,
Okay.
um, and we've done it every other week since April. And people log on, and at first it's like they were kind of afraid to talk, and so we would just have them annotate on the screen, or post a little sticker or a star, or a happy face or something, or do a poll. But we've kind of gotten the brave ones to unmute their microphone, and pretty soon more and more people are unmuting their microphone, and it's the same group. So I'll look at somebody on the screen and I'll call on them. I'll say, "Hey," and you can pass. I tell them you can pass, but I encourage them to join us. And I have a training partner, Amanda Stansberry, and so we will co-host, and so we will throw the ball back and forth, um, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay. Now, are you recording this, or is it just the event is what it is in the moment, and the folks that are attending that are on the call, they just take in what they've learned, and it just they look forward to out for the next round.
We are recording it. We have not really. This thing is kind of evolving, kind
Okay.
of like the end movie where they said, "What are you going to do next?" He said, "I don't know. We're just making this up as we go along."
Gotcha.
So it's kind of evolving organically, and we're recording it, and we really haven't decided on how we're going to disseminate the recordings. Um, right now, we're just trying to master the art podcast where things are kind of a little scripted, but not word for word scripted, like a guideline. And and so did that answer your question?
No, I think you did good. I'm I have to share with you, as a podcaster myself, there's light bulbs going. So perhaps that's a discussion for us after this episode is over. So what has been the participant and client, the sponsor? What has been their reaction to this project?
Well, I was asked by a training partner. Amanda did it solo,
Hmm.
and I got 3 or 4 emails afterwards from the CEO of the company and the CFO, and others enjoyed that so much. She just went through the basics of the GROW model
Hmm.
and the three questions embedded in every coaching conversation. What do you want? Why important? What are you going to do about it? By when? And then she provided a list of like 18 questions that kind of guide the conversation. And I was so proud of her and just pleased that it impacted them so much they went out of their way to write an email afterwards. So we're getting feedback. We're getting positive feedback. And I think the secret is don't try to do all the talking. Get them to talk because people seldom argue with their own data. When they're providing the data, they like it more.
Very good. I'm curious, do you see this modality of having this event? So it's right now, I imagine it's through some other
Mhm,
tool. It's
mhm.
live. You can annotate. You have your moderator, your facilitator, and do you see this as being replicable to other organizations?
I do. I do. And I think the secret I think the secret is having buy-in from the top, having the people at the very top say, we endorse this. We give you an hour on Friday from 11 till 12 to put down what you're doing. Just put it aside and just join the conversation. And there's not a test afterwards. There's homework, but it's not big homework. It's just something to do that keeps reminding them.
Mhm.
Uh, and yes, I do. I see right now as us perfecting this new uh, blended podcast and really becoming comfortable with it ourselves. And that.
Okay. Now I'm curious, within this organization, the folks that are involved on the bi-monthly call, these are these are folks that the organization has identified as high performers.
Mhm.
And could you see this also being extended down further into the organization, folks that are below these high performers?
Absolutely. I think that in an organization where people want to develop their frontline, when people come in the door and they begin to find their place in the organization as a frontline worker, every supervisor, every team leader sees people that they think that person has potential to rise into a more of a leadership position, become a team leader, become a supervisor. And I think it's an excellent tool to begin to develop your people
Mhm.
without committing to an all day training, without committing to being away from their position for a day. Years ago we'd have 2 or 3 for that anymore. It seems like a long training for me is if I start at 9 and end at 3 and have lunch with them. It seems like more and more people are wanting shorter and shorter trainings.
Mm. I'm curious, also yeah, I feel like Ted Lasso, be curious. And if you're conducting these monthly events, it's for an hour. Uh, could do you is there a need for each of is there a need, a desire, a want to go and perhaps re-listen to those recordings?
I think that would be good. I hadn't even thought about that, Howard. You're inspiring me because, you know, that might be something that we tag at the end of the webinar podcast to say, hey, if there's thing that we said today that really resonated with you, get the recording and go back and listen to it.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
you just inspired me. I'm going to do that.
I love it. Hey, at this early in the morning with only one cup of coffee, if I've inspired you, I've done my job. I could go out to
Uh,
get off with the
m
rest of my day. So
my
that
work my work here is finished, right?
there you go. There you go. Tim, anything else coming up for you career wise, you and see anything else that you're doing exciting and in the realm of the coaching work and counseling work that you both do, or are you going to start? I mean, I have to ask this. You and Ruthie go on do the have been hiking the El Camino for a couple of years now.
Yes. Yes. So you're referring to our and walked the famous what you call El Camino Santiago de Compostela. Say that
Ah,
fast three
okay.
times. And the first time we did it 2 years ago, we walked from the northern coast of Spain to Santiago. And this year, like back in April, we started in Portugal and walked from Porto, Portugal up to Santiago. And you're on the trail, you're walking 12 to 15 miles. We figured that our limit is 12 miles a day. We did a 17-mile day
Hmm.
and it just about ate our lunch.
Hmm.
But we found that 12 miles is good. And what would be ideal? I would love to take a bunches and do the hike.
Ah,
And just because you're talking all day long, you're walking and talking, walking and seeing things. And so it's very introspective. By the way, we don't do meditation, we do mediation.
there you go.
M but, there's some meditation, there's some thinking, there's some, life and what direction you're headed, and, so we're doing more of that. I think I'd like to do Hadrian's Wall, the east side of the UK and the west side, and there are places in Italy that I still would like to hike while I have the health and the strength to do it, so, that's what we're doing outside of that, and at work, I just am really fascinated with engagement, the the science of what makes people say, "I love my job." We live on an acreage, and our sewer broke down about a year and a half ago, and the septic people had to come up and dig up the sewer line. And they come with this truck, and it's got a big tank, and you know what goes in that tank.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so they're in our backyard, and there's this guy, and he's got on boots and overalls, and he's got you know what all over. He's digging up the sewer line, and he's got excrement. I can say that on this is a family show. He's got excrement all over himself, and he stops, and he leans on his shovel, and he looks at me, and he smiles, and he said, "I love my job." And he was serious. He said, "I love my job." He said, "I get to be outside. I get to be away from my wife all day." And he said, "I just love my job. And I would give a lot of money if I had a video of him leaning against his shovel with crap all over himself saying, 'I love my job.'" And it's a reminder that it's not the money. There's something magical that when you get the right person, the right job, and do the right things for them,
Mhm.
that someone can dig poop and all day long and say, "I love my job."
Yeah,
And I'm thinking if we focus on that, we can have a lot more civility and a happier world.
I think you're spot on there, and I think you've just shared a segment of our episode to go for that, and I think it really, I firmly believe whatever we do, we should love our jobs. We should love
Yeah.
what we do,
Mhm.
and if we do love it, maybe it's not even a job.
Yeah.
It makes us happy, and I love that. And by the way, regarding the your trips over to Europe and doing the hiking, I actually was thinking to myself, Tim, God, I want to do that with Tim and Ruthie.
Well, come
So
on, let's do this thing.
I want to talk about Hadrian's Wall. So maybe that. And by the way,
Mm,
in the spirit of full disclosure, I've never been to Italy. I always said I would go to Italy when I was married, and we know the end of that story. Uh, but Hadrian's Wall, that would be kind of a fascinating.
yeah.
I think that you and I are going to have another conversation
Okay.
as well about that. Well, Tim, I really appreciate your soon to be busy day. Again, it's early for both of us, and appreciate your flexibility at this early time. And it's as always great to catch up with you. You and Ruthie are just very special to me. And for our listeners, I met them at the Wiley user conference many moons ago, probably back in 2012 ish. when I
Yeah.
became a Wiley partner. And
Well, we had connected on LinkedIn. We had become
yeah,
friends on LinkedIn, and we were at the Wiley conference, and I saw Howard Fox on your name tag, and I thought, Howard Fox, Howard Fox. I'm linked in with that guy, and so
I,
that's where our great
that,
friendship started.
that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. And so, and as they say, the rest is history, and it's good times
Histoire.
and conversations, good food, breaking bread, good coffee. Can't
Mhm.
complain. Can't complain. Tim, if our listeners would like to learn more about you and your work, where are the best places for them to go?
We have a website. It's Encore Life Skills. That's Encore Life. Do it again or play it again, Sam.
Okay.
EncoreLifeSkills.com. It's all
Excellent.
one word. And just Google Encore Life Skills or my name, Tim Hast, Hast. There's not very many Tim Hast in the universe.
Okay.
So I'll probably show up.
All right. And that'll be on LinkedIn. We can,
That's right.
we'll provide the backlinks to Encore Life Skills website and LinkedIn URL as well. Tim, again,
Sure.
it's been a pleasure to have you on Coaching and Consulting Insights on the Success Insight podcast. And um, I know we're going to have many more conversations. So just
Absolutely.
catch up with you today. Can't wait to continue our conversation. So again, thank you for sharing part of your day with us.
Howard, the pleasure is mine.
All right. Listen, stay on the line. We're going to do a real quick close and you and I can have that final chat. Okay.
Okay.
All right, folks. We have just been chatting with trainer and executive coach Tim Hast, just a coffee connoisseur. He and his wife Ruthie have these adventures in Europe and elsewhere, and just what a wonderful individual. And again, it's been a pleasure to get to know him and Ruthie over the years, and it's just great to catch up with him. I had the pleasure and a good fortune of staying with them for a couple days as I made my commute from Chicago to Las Vegas, and it was just really just curious, over the years, since then, to kind of Tim has been up to, and I appreciate him taking the time today to kind of share, what some of those highlights have been. I'm really fascinated about the working with this behavioral healthcare company and really how they're using, the online modality, whether it's live Zoom with boards, and really how to reuse and repurpose this recorded content, because these conversations are valuable and it's a great opportunity to share with folks. Perhaps they couldn't attend that day's session, but there's valuable information and gives them an opportunity to go back and perhaps re-listen. And really, for organizations, what a great opportunity to take uh, this process and move that development further into the organization. So it makes development available for everybody. So, hopefully to get a chance to chat with Tim about some of that, those ideas, and see where we can land with it. So I do hope you enjoyed today's episode. Do go out and visit Tim on his website, EncoreLifeSkills.com. You'll learn more about him, Ruthie, and their team. I'll also provide a backlink to Tim's LinkedIn profile. As for us, you can find us on our website, successinsightpodcast.com. And this episode is organized under Coaching and Consulting Insights. We also have Facebook and LinkedIn, our Success Insight Podcast pages. And you can just search for Success Insight Podcast on any directory where you choose to listen. Now, if you are on, say, Apple Podcast or Spotify, we would love for you to like and comment about this episode or any other episode, and also share the episode for anyone that you think would benefit from it. Okay, folks, until we meet again, go out there, have a phenomenal day, and we will see you on a future episode of the Coaching and Consulting Insight series on the Success Insight Podcast. Take care now.